Good evening, it is the 14th of January and we're back for episode 53 of the weekly Unofficial Football Manager Show. I hope people are well, I hope you are listening in happiness. That makes a lot of sense. And this evening we have Colin on. Good evening, sir.
How's it going?
It's going well. And the good news for some people, we have dumped Ryan off. That's right, we've replaced him. Just for tonight, don't worry, he'll be back next week. We have replaced him with Chris, also known as FM_Samo. Good evening, sir.
Evening, how are we?
We're good, thank you for coming on.
No problem at all.
So we're going to be talking about a bit about your website, a bit about what you're up to and stuff. And we have some interesting topics this evening. Expectations, how to handle them, fitness and handling your team throughout the season, some scouting, a bit about where FM's going in the future. There's a few not rumours, but just people talking about situations at the minute. In terms of is FM leading towards the lesser series and more like FIFA than a team almost. But we'll talk about that later. And we're going to start by talking about a hashtag. Now, I hear you ask, what is a hashtag? Why do you want to talk about a hashtag? Well, there's been a situation. It's been going since the release of FM16, I would say. In terms of Football Manager's Facebook and Twitter account, and there's numerous people in the community, not just ourselves, who we've kind of just feel like the promotion of Football Manager material from Football Manager could be better. It could be better. And I've expressed this before to Sports Interactive as a fan site. And as a fan site, people might think I'm going to sit on the fence. But I will say when I don't agree with someone, and the promotion drastically needs to change. So a few of us sat down, and this is going to be discussed on the Deep Line podcast as well this week. People who listen to both shows. We've sat down and just discussed what we can do in terms of improving promotion, because there's some fantastic writers out there, so some fantastic video creators out there, some streamers out there, loads of people who just deserve more attention than they get, and more promotion, because at the minute, in my own personal opinion, it seems you either have to be a massive FIFA YouTuber who randomly plays Football Manager to get promotion, or you have to be a massive stats site to get promotion of pieces of material which many fan sites released upon the release of FM16, clubs to manage, best players, etc., which got no promotion. Then as soon as a big site comes along, boom, it's promoted. Is that acceptable? In my eyes, no. They might say they don't have to do anything for the community, which is right, they don't have to, but if you want the game to be promoted and loved, and guides, graphics, all the content to be created, to be given out to the community to help the FM community grow, then you've got to give back. You've got to kind of appreciate the community, and that's what we want to happen. It's not just about FM Central. It's not just about Strikerless. Guido's obviously helping us with this as well, and he'd be happy to be mentioned in that. It's not just about us. We in this to promote others. We're not in this to promote ourselves. In fact, the whole discussion is about promoting other people, and that's where the hashtag We Are The Community comes in. So what we're urging people to do, instead of just retweeting something, actually copy that link. Copy the link to the website, to the post, to the YouTube video, and tweet it out, post it on Facebook, and just say, check out this article, it's a good article, I've just read it, for example, hashtag We Are The Community. Then people can go on that hashtag, they can check it out, they can find the latest content, but don't just do it for the sake of it. Actually check the people's content out. Don't promote stuff if you don't know it, because we're not asking you just to promote random stuff. Promote stuff you like, promote content creators you like. So, Chris, for example, you're doing work on your website. You've got a Morton save currently going on.
Yeah.
So when you release an update of that, would obviously I'm following that, so I would check it out. Then I would copy the link from my bar, tweet about it, and put hashtag We Are The Community. Does that make all sense to you?
Makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, are you happy with the idea, with the thoughts on it?
I think it's a brilliant idea. I think I'm all for it. I think I was speaking, or I actually spotted the other day that I on Twitter I had more followers than Mendoza, and for me, I read his content as he's one of the bigger Twitter the bigger websites in regards to Football Manager, and I just found it strange that I had more followers than him, because I count him as a much better content producer than me. I mean, I hardly ever write. I don't go into much detail on any of my saves in terms of tactics or player development or anything like that, and he puts in so much effort, and I just feel like it's sites like that need more of a push. And if there's people following me that don't follow Diego, then I want to ask them why. Basically,
why are you doing this?
Yeah. So it's just everybody in the community that's producing quality content needs to have that content shared, and more people reading it.
I genuinely think that. I mean, it's a funny way of doing it, but it's true. I mean, you've got to say, look, why are you following this person? You should be following this person. And the reason I said about copying the link and posting instead of just retweeting, I've noticed that if I personally retweet something, you obviously get notifications if someone else retweets your retweet or likes your retweet. The difference between that and compared to when I actually do a post on Twitter with the exact same content I'm promoting, I get maybe 10 to 15 more retweets or likes on it compared to normal, so that might end up being 20 to 30 more people clicking on the actual post. It might be 100 more people, might be 1,000 more people. I mean, I'm close to 3,000 followers. How many of them click on something which I personally link compared to how many I retweet? You don't know, but it's definitely something I think we need to look at, and it's something which we as a community are trying to put out there. It's not the whole community, but we want to get people involved.
I think as many people are as involved as possible, and it can only be a good thing.
I mean, it has to start somewhere, and I think I'm delighted that I've been part of the group of people, along with yourself, Chris, who's took that step to kind of make sure the FM community continues to go in the right direction.
Definitely, yeah.
You were talking about Diego Mendoza. The website for him is passthebloodyball.wordpress.com. And yeah, I mean, I completely agree. The material he writes is just outstanding. And it's definitely worth checking out. And as you say, it's somebody who you kind of look at his followers and you kind of think, how have you only got this many followers? Your material is outstanding.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're going to go on to the topics for this evening, Colin.
Okay.
The first topic I want to talk about is expectations. Now, this comes to light because somebody contacted myself and said, wow, you're really struggling, you're failing with FC United Manchester because you're not in the Premier League. And you've been managing, I'm in my 8th season now. And that led me to take more notice on our Facebook group and just in general. And people will take charge of Bournemouth or Leicester or Fulham, for example, in the Championship. And if they don't win promotion or finish top half of the Premier League or finish in European spots, you will see the next day they've started a new save. And I think that's down to expectation, Colin. So, I mean, do people go into saves with too much expectation?
So, yeah, I agree. This is a favorite topic of yours and mine to discuss quite often. So, to be totally fair, I think people have way overblown expectations for what you're going to get out of a given season and playing. And I think FM16, almost more than any other version I've played, so I'll fully admit FM13 was my full, was when I really started playing the game. But so far, FM16 to me seems to be much better in terms of setting sort of realistic expectation for how hard it is to actually move and gain promotion, get your team rolling, getting winning streaks, getting the right players in, those kind of things. So I think you need to be a lot more sort of realistic about what's going on. I think in my series on YouTube with Truro, I've tried to be very, very careful about making, setting my expectation. And this last season, as I made a tactical adjustment mid-season, and I said, you know what, if this helps solidify mid-season, I'm thrilled. If we're mid-table this year, that was all, mid-table Vanarama National League was all I was looking for. And we ended up qualifying for the playoffs. And I said, look, I'm thrilled. This season, as far as I was concerned, was a huge success. We managed to finish in the top half of the table. I had a lot of confidence in what the squad was doing. I saw some things I wanted to tweak. And I actually said a couple of times in the last few videos, I was really nervous and concerned if we figured out how to move up. That if for some reason we performed, got lucky, and went to League 2, I was more concerned about that than another season in the National League where I could work on developing the team a little bit. Now, subsequently, if you want to catch up on the series, so it's not a spoiler, it's already been out there, but if you wanted to catch up on the series, we did get promoted into League 2. And my expectation, and I talk a little bit about it at the beginning of the season, is I'm just holding on. I'm not all that disappointed if I get relegated. I think, we're a small club. We're not really financially where the rest of the league is. Staying in potentially poses a lot of expenses and financial complications on the squad. So while being in League 2 is awesome and exciting and thrilling and incredible to manage in, I'm really careful because if we overdo this, we do this too fast, we outpace our ability to recruit, develop, understand how it gets played, put the right tactical systems in place, discover the competition and really, really get used to the regular players and things like that in it, the whole thing could implode and we could tumble back down so fast, we hit our face on every stair on the way down the staircase. So I think, to me, really, really being very realistic about what's going on. Is it spectacular in 5 seasons to go from the Conference South to the Premier League? Sure, but your club is totally unprepared to be there, and it's going to be a disaster. And should you expect that? Oh yeah, we're going to keep rolling like this every year? Absolutely not. That it just doesn't happen. So I think people really do need to meter it out. Small clubs like you mentioned a Fulham save, right? Fulham have been, look at them in real life. They're mired in a bottom half of the table in the championship, and relegation battles over the last few seasons. So if you take them over and you happen to, to unlock some tactics, make some good signings, and get them promoted, to me, it's absolutely in no way, shape, or form realistic, believable, or even something that should enter in your head to go, yep, this year we're going top 4, Champions League, we're ready to go. Think about those clubs. You have no right to think you should be competing up at that level at that point. If something happens, you get lucky, whatever, so be it. But, in reality, you really have no right to expect that you should be competing at that level at that rate.
Do you know what? Anyone who's listened to this show since Colin became one of the hosts on it, I've never heard him rant like that.
Sorry, you found a hot button issue.
I'm just going to check. You must have been a good 4 or 5 minutes.
I just maybe want to start a Fulham save.
He's dying to do a Fulham save, win promotion, and screenshot it to Colin going, ha ha.
Champions League first season, eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, deal with it. Europa League, won the FA Cup. Chris, in terms of yourself, when you're entering a save, I mean, do you go in with like the expectation of, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or like at what point do you decide you've overachieved, or is it just always step by step for yourself?
It's quite a tricky one because the team that I support and the team that I am on Football Manager at the moment is Greenock Morton. We pretty much ever since Football Manager Championship Manager's been out, we've been in the lower leagues in Scottish football. This year's save, in this year's game, we started off in the Championship, so obviously the same league as Rangers and Hibs are at the moment. And I decided... And St Mirren, yeah, our biggest rivals.
My Football Manager team.
No comment. But yeah, I mean, we started off in that league, and my expectations were low. But we had a fairly solid first season. I think I sneaked into the playoffs and got put out. But then second season, Rangers went up, in the first season, and I completely dominated the second season and got promoted to the Premiership. And then the third season, I had an absolutely ridiculous season where I actually won the Premiership ahead of Rangers and Celtic in my first season back in the Premiership. I actually still can't explain some of the results that I had. It was outrageously lucky, I would say. It definitely wasn't down to any skill whatsoever. But I think that's where the expectation part comes into it. I had so low expectations that every time I would get a win, I'd just be delighted with it. And even when I won the league this season after that, so the fourth season in save, the board didn't expect me to win the league again the next season. They were still just expecting me to finish mid-table. So there was absolutely no expectations on me whatsoever. I could just go along happily and make a few signings and just make a bit of progress. And I think it just depends on the luck that you get in game. For me, anyway. I mean, if I was to go a bigger team, I would say I'm pretty useless. I would much rather go.
Confidence.
I would much rather go a team like Celtic, or for example like PSG in a league where you can maybe lose a few games, but you're still going to win the league, if that makes sense. So your expectations are high, but you've actually got a really decent chance of still winning the league, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. One thing I would say, what you mentioned there, which is definitely something I want to actually touch on, is the expectations from the board side of things. I know we've been talking about what your expectations going into stuff is, like what do you kind of hope happens, but I don't know if you've noticed, but in FM15, if you won the league with Morton, as you said there, the next season they would have won it again. And I've kind of noticed in FM16 the boards are a lot more realistic, which is really nice. I noticed with FC United Manchester, it took me 5 seasons to get out the Conference North, and every season all they wanted was avoid relegation. Now in last year's FM I did a save with them. First season was avoid relegation. I did that. I finished, I think, mid-table. Second season they wanted me to win the league.
Yeah. So
have you noticed that, Chris, that this year the board does seem a lot more laid back?
I've definitely noticed it, but so far I have only been Morton. I haven't actually, other than the beta, I haven't been any other teams yet, so I've not had a chance to progress in any firm way with any other saves. But I'll probably start a new save in the next couple of weeks or so, I would probably say. But yeah, I haven't noticed that.
I've been saying for a while now that I want to do a save on the side, but I just really can't get into it. As soon as I consider firing something else up, I just end up clicking load game and just sitting on FC United. Even if I'm at a recording point with it being on YouTube, I will then just spend maybe 2 or 3 hours if I can't record because the kids are awake, for example. If the missus is home and she's watching the kids and she goes, go and take a bit of time away, you can't record because of the noise in the house. So I will just literally spend an hour watching games back and just stat checking and basically being the biggest nerd you can ever meet. As I'm there with my pen and paper in front of me taking notes of, right, he got a 7.1 in that game, but he only did 51 passes. I'd love to know if other people do that. I mean, Chris, let's say you finish your season with Morton, will you look back, or are you really a forward-thinking manager? Do you look back and go, right, how's this happened? Why did this happen? Can I replicate it?
I wouldn't say I'm that kind of manager. I wouldn't go into that much detail, but I do look back on certain players that I've spotted maybe over the season that maybe haven't performed as well as I wanted them to. Like my left back for Morton at the moment, he's a sort of, I feel like he's older than he is, but every time I click onto him he's still like mid-20s. I feel like he's a veteran left back. He's this Italian guy. I've never heard of him before in my life. Free transfer. He's called Benedetti, I think. But he performs quite well. But I feel like I always want to upgrade him into someone better. But I've just never been able to find somebody yet. So every season I finish, I look in and see how he's done and see if I can find anybody else, and I've not managed it yet.
It's nice when that happens because you'll end up becoming so attached to him. You just kind of think, you know, I'll just keep you.
I know he's gonna be my assistant manager one day, I think.
Because I've got a prime example of that is Zach Mills at FC United. I signed him, must be 4 or 5 seasons ago now, and he has 19 for long throws. So I've utilised that. And according to my assistant, he's the worst player in the club. According to my coaches, he's the worst player in the club. According to his stats, I have right backs who are double the player of him. But he's getting 15 to 20 assists a season, and he's averaging a 7.0, 7.1 throughout the season at right back, and he's matching the other fullback in terms of tackles per game, tackle percentage, pass percentage. So he's past 200 games for the club now, and since I won promotion from the Conference North, they've been telling me to scrap him. And I signed Arbeloa, you know, the former Liverpool and Real Madrid right back.
Yeah.
I signed him at the age of 38. Now, Colin, you obviously laughed. He only had 1 for speed.
Yeah, to be fair, I run faster than he does.
The plan was just to make him sit there at the right back and just tackle people. But he couldn't get in the team for this Mills, who he's just unstoppable. I think he's 31 now and he's tied down for another 2 years. As long as he keeps throwing that ball like a bullet, he's not leaving my team. But Colin, I want to just ask you first about fitness and handling your team.
My great nemesis.
Rant coming. Just basically, you know, you've come up. You're now in League 2. You've now gone professional, I assume.
Yes.
You've got the Capital One Cup. You've got the FA Cup. You've got the Johnson's Paints. You've got 46 league games. You're new to a professional. Maybe half your players aren't even contracted still.
Oh no, we took care of that.
Oh, half of mine aren't. I didn't bother.
Nope.
If they're not on the first team, they didn't get a contract.
To be totally fair, I only brought 3 guys. I brought 4 guys with me from my National League team to League 2.
Well, going into your new squad of new contracted players, I apologise for daring to doubt you. How dare I do that?
That's right.
How do you go by fitness wise? I see a lot of people complain by Christmas that the players are tired, the players are unfit, they screwed basically.
So I would have to say the pre-season, especially the recruitment between when I achieved promotion to League 2 and when we started playing pre-season, was probably the most significant, critical pre-season I've ever had in FM. And it's probably the longest I played a preseason. I think I spent almost a week and a half on the preseason, not just in the game, but just figuring out what to do. So what I did, so fitness was a huge concern, right? So once you get into the football league, you know, things change drastically. So yeah, like you said, we got 46 games, potentially up to three cup competitions that could be running with, you know, simultaneously, assuming, you know, we get stupidly lucky at this point. But at least 2 running at any given point, right? So the Johnson's Pate and Capital One Cup would be running, overlapping each other, and then Johnson's Pate and FA Cup would be overlapping each other to some degree or another. So what I did was I took my wage budget and I decided, rather than go and look for a really, really dynamite 11 and, you know, pick up whatever scraps and bits I could, or hope that I would find some diamond in the rough for rotation players, I actually went out and divided pretty evenly, figured out a rough spend per player, and brought 22 guys in. And it was painful, it was difficult, you know, squad status was really important. But I have 22 players in the squad, so I have a fair amount of rotating options. I wanted to make sure that I had 2 guys for every position, and as I was picking people that I thought were going to be more rotational players, to look for diversity in what they could do. So, you know, I have, you know, in my formation, you know, I have a dedicated two attacking midfielders on the left wing. But for my right wing, I made sure he could play anywhere across the front, so that if I needed more backup, guys got hurt, whatever, I had options and I had depth in the squad. Same thing with midfielders, right? So my midfielders can play defensive midfield, center mids, attacking mid centers, and I have crosses between fullbacks and center backs, so that I have two guys for every position in a dedicated sense and a lot of overlap. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm not actively trying to throw any competition. As you said, we've gone professional. We're a little club. We're only getting about 1,500 or so, between 1,300 and 1,500 people a game that come out to the park. So we're not exactly knocking down the doors with gate receipts. So this is expensive. I can't afford to blow off competitions. So I need money. I need results. So I think I have a really solid average team for League Two. I don't think we're going to set the world on fire by any stretch of the imagination. But along with the first part, the expectations here. So my expectation is to just hang on to the league. And I spent a lot of time saying, okay, how do I get enough guys into the squad that I can rotate them, still play effectively in the league, and do what I need to do to meet, to survive this year. So that's really how I approached it. I didn't change much of my training. So as we go progressively through the year, I kind of reduce what's going on in the training. Now that we're professional, I have more options, so I can use, taking off before and after matches and things like that. As we get later into the season, I can play with those kind of levers that we've never had before. But for me, squad depth at this level was everything.
That's interesting. I think it's something that I'll focus on, is the squad depth, but a lot of mine is based on the training side to keep my players fit, because I think people will have noticed on the review which went out yesterday, if you watch it, and if you don't, I've just done a review video of my first season in League 2, and so many players were over 30 appearances, and I would say my bench and subs were pretty much the same for most of the season. They maybe only racked up 10 starts all season. And mine was all based to, I would do 3 months of balanced training. Then over Christmas period, we would only do fitness training. They would rest before and after matches. So it would be literally come in, do a few days of training, then just have a rest and make sure you're fit for the games, because the players aren't going to develop stupidly at that level. You don't have a hidden Premier League gem when you sat in League 2. So I've got players who, as people know, I'm absolutely in love with, like 3 of my players. I genuinely have got like this FM crush on them. But I know they're not going to develop past League 1 and maybe bottom end Championship. So am I spending my team training proper, like really hard, intensive training all the time? No. Throughout Christmas, all they do is fitness training, and I find that they go up, they get lots of greens on the stats, and I think it's because they're not hammering themselves, they're not destroying themselves, they're just going out there, they're getting fit, they're playing football, they're winning matches because we're fitter than the opposition, and I'm finding it useful. But I think it's going to be interesting to see, Chris, how you handle it, because it's not luck, you've obviously got some skill in terms of how you've done so fantastically well with Morton, and what we haven't done is mentioned the website where people can follow that, because obviously it's a fantastic read to see someone take a team so quickly to Scottish dominance.
Yeah, well, the website is occasionalfm.wordpress.com. I've actually only blogged up to the end of season 3, which is the season that I won the Premiership. I haven't written anything about the season after yet. I was finding it really difficult to sort of keep on top of the balance between the little time that I get to play the game and the time to blog and really enjoying the game. So absolutely firing through the seasons every time I was playing, pretty much, especially over Christmas when I had a little bit of more time off work and stuff like that. But yeah, that's where you can find the blog. Obviously, having won the Scottish Premiership, that means I qualified for Europe, and that brings into play sort of fitness and squad handling a bit more than it did when I was just playing league football or in the 2 cups in Scotland. or 3 if you're in the lower leagues. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, there's a bit of a balance between like a bigger squad and potentially players being a bit unhappy versus a smaller squad and your players being completely knackered with the midweek games and the weekend games. I mean, in my Morton save, I've got absolutely no homegrown talents in the squad yet, so I've actually had to leave some of my first team players out of the European squad to fit in with the rules. So that comes into things a bit. They're a bit unhappy about that, but they're playing the league games as opposed to the European games. But I think you touched on it there, Paul, or maybe it was Colin. But it's about, I think it was you, Paul, that you said you're a big fan of resting players or not having them train sometimes.
The busy Christmas period for myself.
And I do that quite a lot, and not even over Christmas, but just in the general weeks. I mean, sometimes I'll have a game maybe Saturday, Sunday, and then a Wednesday in the Champions League, which is mental to say for Great Morton. But then I'll have a game at the weekend again, so there's not much time in between that for the players to rest, and especially with a relatively small squad or maybe a lack of quality or in depth. You don't have that much chance to rotate, so you have to manage that fitness a bit more and sort of pay more attention to the training side of things, where they're maybe not training on some days before matches and then definitely getting a rest for at least a couple of days after a match.
I think it's just vital. I mean, if you were, I try to look in your own shoes. If you're training and playing matches and stuff, you're gonna need a rest, aren't you? Especially if you're whacking out 3 games a week. I mean, I play football once a week at the minute. I'm dead for 3 and 4 days after.
Same.
So it's like moving a bus when I get to work the next day. But we're gonna move away from picking our players up on the fitness table to scouting. And I'm going to go to yourself, Chris, first, if that's okay, just because, again, the rise, the fact you're going to have had to scout Europe to make your team ready for European competition. So, in general, how do you approach scouting?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen quite a few saves, obviously, online and some of the guys that are blogging and stuff like that, and I've got to say that I'm not a believer in attribute masking. I never have been. I want to play the game and be enjoyed by it, so and get enjoyment from it. So I don't.
Oh, hang on. Let's just stop that there. So you have it, so you can see all the stats.
I do, yeah.
Oh, cop out.
I know.
Don't worry, lads. I'm cutting him off now. Go on, then carry on.
I'll just leave now. It's fine.
The rant. I'll do the rant after you've gone.
I just don't see
I'll
why.
defend you.
I don't see it. I don't understand why people would want to do that. But that doesn't mean to say that I don't still use my scouts to get scouts reports. But then obviously that doesn't mean to say that I just completely ignore the scouts and just sign the player anyway because I think he looks good.
So let me give an example for the attribute masking before you go on with your scouting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you that in the football team I play for, Bjerkreim, you've never heard of the team.
No.
I can assume because they are in the low levels of Norwegian football. So I'm going to tell you that we have a striker who's fantastic. So you're now going to say, I want to sign him for my team. You know nothing about him, so you can't just click on him or come and see him and know everything. You're going to have to then develop that knowledge. That's why I like to send my scouts out when I see like 2 or 3 stats, and the next week I see a few more, and you find out 2 or 3 things in the report. The week after there's 5 things in the report. Then after a month you find out he's unprofessional and he's shit. And you sit back and you think, well, that was a wasted month. See, what better way to spend your day, Chris, than wasting months of FM scouting utter tripe?
I just don't have time for that.
Did I sell it to you?
You really didn't, no.
I tried. Go on, I'm interested to know, do you have any methods of like countries or ways of finding them special talents?
Oh yeah, I've always got methods for countries. I think it was Mr. Eds. I don't know if he blogs about Football Manager anymore. I still follow him on Twitter. But he had a cracking post, maybe last year or a couple of years ago on scouting, and he always said that he separated his scouts by certain regions or had a scout per country and stuff like that, and that's something that I've tried to do as well. So I always have one scout. I think it's normally my scout that does the opposition reports. He is always scouting the country as well. So he'll be scouting the teams and he'll be looking for the players from the country that I'm playing in. I've always, if I'm in Scotland, I've always got a scout in England, and I'm a big fan of Scandinavia for our players. So I've always got a scout there, maybe even two, mainly looking at Denmark and Sweden, but obviously with a bit of Norway as well. And then recently I've actually been going towards like Croatia and Serbia as well, because I always feel like there's a bit of talent there. I think it was mainly from Slovenia as well as that, from George from Deep Line Pod. He had his no, he hated Maribor. Who was he? Was he Maribor? Oh, I can't remember.
I don't think it was, because I remember I've been Maribor before, and I remember him mentioning that he was a team against them. Yeah,
me too. But he played in Slovenia, and he said there was quite a bit of talent there. So I think I've been leaning towards that side of Europe recently. But with Morton, I've not really strayed far from Europe yet. Anyway,
I think I think I've done my methods in the past, but I'm always happy just to skim it. So I have my scouts out there all the time. I mean, currently they're over in Germany and that kind of region. I've just picked up a goalkeeper to come to League 2 who's playing in non-league in Germany, which is nice. I personally send myself, like, I have a little walk around. Yep, that's right, it's realistic. I get out and have a walk around Belarus. That makes a lot of sense. I go and have a look around the clubs in Belarus, and that's mainly due to Bate Borisov in like Football Manager 07, 08, 09, with Bresson and Nikolic, and you can go through them. I mean, I was a massive poster on Neo Seeker at that time, and the amount of screenshots of them guys I posted every save I started was them. Poland as well, you can pick up some great signings.
Belarus have got that. They've got that Ruor team as well.
They do, yes.
That they just continually produce quality youngsters.
They do. There's a couple of them. There's the one in France
Claire Fontaine as well, yeah.
But yeah, I think my methods they're fairly simple. It's literally 100% scout knowledge. So my scouts do all the work. They come back with players. I will then check them out and get them either in on trial or then get a more extensive scout report and then just go through it. But someone's actually asked me to do a video on how I'm scouting and finding players for FC United Manchester. I'm a bit scared to do the video, if that makes sense, Chris, because my methods are so basic. I've got a feeling when people watch it, they're just going to go, so you send your scout, then click continue. It's literally, it sounds so dull. I think the main aspect would be the highlighting the aspects of the player I look into, but then I don't think I do anything special. I mean, maybe I do something that other people don't, but I'd be curious to know if I did or didn't. But I guess we'll find out. Colin, what about yourself for scouting?
Again, I'm not entirely all that different from you. I think I do a lot of, I send my scouts to places. I look at what they come back with, and then I kind of say, hey, do I think, I spend a lot of time studying attributes and figuring out, is the player and the attributes of the player something that I think is going to fit my system, my style? So I look at, like PPMs and attitude and things like that, and then I kind of make a call as to whether or not I think I'm going to sign him. Something that I guess, at least with Churro, it wasn't something I was hugely worried about before, in the sense that, I pretty much scouted like Plymouth's under 21, so it wasn't like it was an intensive activity. But now that we're a League 2 side, we have the ability to scout in Europe. I'm starting to think a lot more about style and form and players and regions and regional player, regional, I don't want to quite say stereotypes because I don't mean it, I don't want it to mean negative, but just trying to look for different, as I look for different aspects to create different characteristics within my squad, I'm trying to send places. So if I'm looking for, like Eastern Europe, I guess more for like, the resolute center back types versus, like Spain, where I'm interested in, strong, intelligent, high visibility midfielders and, that kind of thing. So, it's evolving. My thoughts on the subject are definitely evolving, and how they, how they all sort of thread together.
High visibility players. So basically, Colin, when he was in non-league, basically raped Plymouth under-21s for players.
I didn't have much of an option. That was my scouting range, was like the stadium next door. They're like, well, we have enough money. They're down the street. You can go and visit them.
Then now you've gone up the leagues, you basically look for players who play on the pitch with a high visibility vest. So basically, when you scout people training, you only look at the team who has the vests on. The other team who play in like the normal strip, they don't get scouted.
No, I mean, and to be totally fair, I think it's a piece of understanding how, I think a lot of it has to do with understanding my squad, right? I think my League 2, when we went into League 2, I was given $45,000 was the transfer budget, and $1 million a year was the wage budget. So, I'm not interested in a $150,000 transfer fee guy. I can't be. It doesn't matter how enamored I am with him or how awesome I think he'll be or how sexy I think he'd look in our kit. I can't be enamored with him. But yeah, the dude running around in the deer hunter jersey there, so he doesn't get hit by the ball boy, he's my guy. So I'm looking for I'm looking at all those under 21s reserve players and saying, okay, do I think you fit what I'm trying to do, and can you plug in and potentially play over your head? So far, I think the answer has been yes. I found a lot of players that I think can play over their head, but it's an entirely different mentality. We just don't have the resources to kind of come in and play at that and sort of make deals at that level. So, I don't even bother. It's it's not worth the effort of scouting. It's not worth the time and kind of going through all that, because it's just it just doesn't make a difference.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for the insight, Colin.
Sorry, it's a very ranty evening tonight.
That's all right. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying this, Colin. You've replaced Ryan as the ranter. So the final little topic, it's only a quick topic, so we won't hold you people for too long, is I saw somebody tweet today just about how Football Manager could possibly be looking down the route. Are we going to be looking at independent servers? Are they going to be looking to improve the online stuff? And then people said, well, with independent servers, the next thing we'll have is like FIFA Ultimate Team, but Football Manager Ultimate Team. And it's kind of looking at what route is Football Manager taking. And it's almost going back to the promotion side of things. And the fact that a very well-known FIFA YouTuber, when he streams Football Manager, he gets a plug about it because the excited that he's playing the game. Obviously, the fact we stream and stuff can't be that exciting because we don't get a plug about it. Maybe we just need to shout a lot. That's what FIFA YouTubers seem to do.
But my wife gets really cranky if I'm sitting upstairs in my room when I'm playing and I start yelling.
Yeah, I think we'll try not to do that. Maybe we're just far too experienced to like play FM, and if we lose, you have to take like a Jaeger shot or whatever they do on them videos and stuff. Or like I saw someone with a BB gun. If we lose the online draft, you've got to shoot each other with a BB gun. Are you ready, Chris? The game begins now.
May the odds forever be in your favour.
We joke about, but it's getting to the point now. They've brought in the draft this year. Which has attracted a lot more interest from people who have notoriously been more towards the FIFA side, because they can go on, do a quick video, quick stream doing a draft, then come off. but I would say 99.9% of the Football Manager community are people who they like FIFA as a side thing. I mean, people know I record FIFA for my other channel, my gaming channel, but Football Manager's my passion, it's my love, it's what I do, and I do it because it takes hours of time. It's something you dedicate yourself to. You look at statistics for hours upon end. Do I want to see a Football Manager Ultimate Team Road to Division 1 series on YouTube from somebody? Not a chance in hell do I want to see that kind of thing. And I fear that for the bright lights of publicity and the bright lights of more money of doing this and attracting the kids, almost you could say, to the game, in terms of come and quickly play, build your team and manage them for 5 games, more advanced than FIFA type thing. I don't know how they would do it, but I've got a feeling it's going to go down that route to an extent. And Chris, I mean, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, I assume it's something you wouldn't like to see.
Yeah, you're quite right there. I think I've been quite vocal on this in the past, and I wrote a wee while back now. I think it was sort of end of 2014. I wrote a blog around sort of Football Manager and addictiveness. From my personal opinion, and I'm probably in the same boat as I'm sure a lot of the listeners are, in that I don't really get much time to play the game anymore, or as much time as I'd really like to play the game anymore. But that doesn't mean that when I do play the game, that I want to dumb down the version of the game that I'm playing it when I get the opportunity to play it. I do understand why like Sports Interactive and Football Manager are doing this. And why they're going down that route, and you can see why. I mean, it is the bright lights, like you say. And personally, I've never turned down a game of FIFA, but being honest, I got FIFA 16 for Christmas, and I've not even opened it from the packaging yet. I don't want Football Manager to go after those type of game players. I don't want it to detract from what makes Football Manager the brilliant game that we all love. Yeah,
it's frustrating, isn't it, man? Because they brought Prozone in this year, which is like such a detailed thing, Chris. But then at the same time they released this amazing detailed thing, they also released a side of the game which kind of says this could be the future.
Yeah, and I feel the same as well. I mean, my laptop can hardly handle 3D games anymore, never mind 2D, and I don't want to create my own personal 3D manager of myself before I start a new save. I know it's like less than 2 minutes it takes, but it's just I don't want to do that. It's not The Sims.
It's do you know what, that is a feature which I genuinely, when I go on to the what I do really like about that feature is inside the game, you know, your picture profile. I quite like the fact you can create your head and make him look like, well, however you want. I quite like that. Instead of adding a picture, instead of just having a blank cutout, you've now got to manage a profile picture, which I like. But all of this what shall you dress him in to stand on the touchline, all of that stuff, I do think it was a complete and utter waste of time. And I think when we first discussed the release of the game, I said, look, give it time, it might be well. I genuinely can't remember what my opinion was at the time. Might have been decent. But yeah, it's just I don't even think I don't know the last time I looked at it. I've never had to, so I haven't started another save. So it's literally just something which is just never addressed. And I mean, if anyone from Sports Interactive does listen to this podcast, please just take the next few years. I think are vital in terms of, are you going to go down the Prozone and make this game massively like detailed in terms of how you got to concentrate on it, or are you going to sell yourself out to the FIFA side of the community? And I just hope they go down the first choice. But I want to thank you for coming on, Chris. I really do appreciate it.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. I could probably chat for another couple of hours, but I think we should probably leave it there.
I think we should leave it there for the viewers, and I want to just remind people, hashtag we are the community, you are the community, we all are the community, so just throw that hashtag out there, hashtag we are the community, bring us all together, make sure we are promoting people's work, make sure we're sharing work that we've seen and we enjoy in the community. Yeah, and just enjoy Football Manager as always, guys. Colin, as always, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Always good to be here.
And we will see you all next week for episode 54 of the weekly Football Manager show. We will now play you out with some beautiful music.